All right, happy Monday, everybody. Um, this is gonna be probably a short video talking about what happened in college football as of last night. But I just found out the news today, and that news is that yet another head coach has been fired, and the head coach that has been fired is LSU's former head coach, Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly had a big game on Saturday against Texas A&M. I think they were like the third, fourth ranked team, but they're undefeated. And he lost 3 games in a row. Just not only to Texas A&M, but also to other amateur teams that LSU probably should have beaten. And right here, I have a list of teams that have also fired their head coach this season alone. This season's been going crazy. Okay, and we're like at the halfway point, basically, in the college football season. But Florida fired their head coach, Billy. I'm only using first names. Florida fired their head coach, Billy. Penn State obviously fired James Franklin, which I've already talked about. Arkansas fired their head coach, Sam. Virginia Tech fired their head coach, Brent. UCLA, they fired their coach, Deshaun. I think that's how you say his name. And Oregon State fired their head coach, Trent. That is 7 head coaches that have just been fired during the regular season. Wow. That's a lot of teams right there. Will this list grow? Will there be more than 7 head coaches? I don't know. But it's just crazy that these teams, these schools fired their coaches during the regular season, because most of the time, you get firings during the off season, right? After the season's over. But LSU just fired Brian Kelly yesterday. Do I think it was a good move for them? Or do I really care? Not really. I really don't care. But I decided to make a video about it anyway because I do like college football. So, yeah, I guess they just figured, he wasn't winning enough games for him. Just like all these schools that fired their head coaches this season. All of them, their coaches weren't doing a good job. The only really 2 head coaches that I really know about, like as far as like the detail of why they get fired, I'm assuming that the other coaches from the other schools got fired because of the same reasons. But I'm saying like the 2 main head coaches that I knew more about than the other head coaches were James Franklin from Penn State, which we have a big, huge game coming up on Saturday, November 1st. I'm really looking forward to that game. It's gonna be a good game. What type of game are we gonna get? I don't know. But also LSU, Brian Kelly. Now, LSU, I mean, they really haven't beat anybody here recently. I don't even think they made the playoffs last season. I could be wrong, but yeah, they just fired him because he couldn't win any big games, and he kept losing and losing and losing. And so I figured that LSU felt like it was time for them to move on. Time for them to, just make a different change in their coaching staff, So Brian Kelly, I mean, he's an okay football coach, I would say. I don't know if he's going to coach on to another team. I don't even know if another team would pick him up. But I do right now, they're negotiating Brian Kelly's buyout for like $54 million. That's his total buyout. So, wow, that's a lot of money. But James Franklin, his buyout was $74 million. They paid him that when they fired him, because that's how much they owed him if he was to get fired. So, dang. I mean, we might see James Franklin at another school somewhere. I don't know. How does that affect the game coming up this weekend against my Buckeyes? I don't know if... Because, again, it's always been up in the air, like what type of game you're going to get against Penn State, right? the majority of the time, it's always been a fight whenever Penn State played us. But LSU, I mean, they were in the second best conference, the SEC. And so, I mean, I guess I can see why they fired Brian Kelly. But just like James Franklin and these other coaches that I named off already, I do believe that they probably should at least let them finish the season, right? Because I think now LSU has like 3 losses of the season on the season. But yeah, apparently Brian Kelly did not hold up the standards. But I still think they should have at least fired him until after the season was over. Because now what all these schools have done that fired their head coaches during this season, was put their players in a pickle, in a torment, right? Because now how do these players from Oregon State, UCLA, Virginia Tech, Arkansas, Penn State, Florida, and LSU, how do they rally behind the interim coach until they figure out who the heck they're going to hire? But did LSU make a right call? I think they probably, if they were going to fire him, I really don't like when schools fire their coaches mid-season or during the season. I prefer that schools just wait, but I guess they did that. They do that so they think that they can turn their season around. But to me, I just feel like, it's just going to make it harder on the players and on the other coaching staff, like the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, the special teams coach, and everybody else in between. So I guess only time will tell if LSU's firing Brian Kelly will help turn around LSU. I know they still got like some games left on, some big games left on their schedule, but only time will tell, really. But I think this hurts LSU as a whole. Just like I think Penn State firing James Franklin is going to hurt Penn State and our game on Saturday. But I do expect Penn State to play their absolutely best, because to them, probably them playing us on this Saturday, is probably like their national championship, right? Because at this point, they're not making the playoffs, but they can still make a bowl game. So if they want to have a good win under the belt for the season, it's going to be against the number 1 undefeated champions. This is my Ohio State Buckeyes, right? But even though that's not going to happen, but they could put up a fight, Penn State, for that game. But yeah, so Brian Kelly from LSU, he's been fired as of yesterday. Florida fired Bill, Arkansas Sam, Virginia Tech Brent, UCLA Deshaun, and Oregon State. That's 7 head coaches fired. Will this list grow? Because we still got plenty more in the season. A lot more games to be played. Right now it stands at 7 head coaches that's been fired this season. Will it be 8? I don't know. Will Ryan Day be on the list if he doesn't beat that team up north? I don't know. But I will say this. Since we lost to that team up north last year, if he didn't win a national championship, Ryan Day would have definitely been fired. 100%. The only thing that saved Ryan Day is the national championship win. That was it. If he didn't win that, he was probably going to get let go. I truly 100% believe that. But how things turn out this season, I don't know. We'll just have to wait until that game. That game up against the team up north, and see how this season turns out. But yeah, Brian Kelly got fired as of yesterday, and now LSU is looking for a new coach. All these schools are looking for a new coach. There's a rumor that Lane Kiffin, the coach of Ole Miss, might be in the front running for Florida, LSU, and Penn State. I don't know about the other schools, but those are really the 3 best coaching jobs right there, I would say, besides yeah, the best 3 coaching position jobs that are open right now is Penn State, Florida, LSU. If I was Lane Kiffin, or if I was any other coach that any of those top 3 schools were looking for me to become their head coach, out of those 3, I'd probably either go Penn State or LSU. I think Florida is like the weakest out of the 3. And I'm not adding the other schools like Arkansas, Virginia Tech, UCLA, or Oregon State because, listen, they're just not that great of programs. Okay, they're good programs, but they're not top notch like Florida, Penn State, or LSU. Right? You're going to get more money, and you're going to more recruits are going to want to go to one of those 3 schools versus the other schools. So those would be my top 3 picks. But really, if I was a head coach, I would probably go with Penn State. I think Penn State is probably the best coaching job. But LSU is also a good program to coach at too. But will Lane Kiffin, even because he is the top person apparently that all these schools are going after, but he's coaching at Ole Miss right now. They're having a pretty good season. So I don't even know if he would leave Ole Miss for any of these jobs. I don't see why he would. Right? I mean, you're having success at Ole Miss right now, but that's obviously why these other schools want him. But there's some other names as well that's being pushed around. I don't know what they are, or if even the coaches will even take up any offers at any of these other schools that can probably hopefully turn these programs around. Really doesn't matter to me, quite honestly, whoever they get, because, they're going to have to come through the Ohio State to win a national championship. So, especially if you're getting a coaching position at Penn State, you got to go through the Buckeyes to be able to win a national championship. But that is the breaking news. LSU, Brian Kelly has been fired as of yesterday from his head coaching job. Right now, they're negotiating a $54 million buyout. I don't know if he's going to get less, going to get more, but either way, he's probably going to get over, he's definitely going to get over $40 million for a buyout. Woo, these coaches get paid very well. All these coaches from all these schools. But, that was the news right there. 7 coaches have been fired, and Brian Kelly, well, it was 6, but with Brian Kelly's firing as of yesterday, it is now 7. Will the list grow? Will it be 8 by the end of the season? Will it be 12 by the end of the season? I don't know, but the message basically is, listen, win games. All right? All these programs. If you're going to coach any of these programs, any of these 7 programs, win your games. That is the message. Obviously, every program wants to go up and not down. And with LSU, they just felt like Brian Kelly just kept going down. And apparently, none of the players have faith in him anymore. None of his coaching staff around him has hope in him anymore. And the LSU fans definitely have no hope for him anymore because during the Texas A&M game, they were all gone before the game was even over. That lets you know right there that the fans have completely lost faith and trust in Brian Kelly, and also the players on the LSU team lost faith in Brian Kelly. So once that happens, you're done. So only time will tell who LSU's new head coach will be. And not only LSU, but also who's going to be the head coach in Florida, Arkansas, Virginia, UCLA, and Oregon State. And the one I'm really keeping a close eye on who's going to be the head coach of is Penn State. Who is going to be the new head coach of Penn State? And will that make a difference whenever we do play Penn State during the future? But our game coming up this Saturday, it is an interim head coach. I can't remember his name, but Yeah, depending on, I do believe that Penn State's this is probably going to be like their championship game when they play us this Saturday, right? They're going to probably put all their eggs in one basket in the game against us. Will that be enough? I don't know what type of Penn State team we will face. Normally, whenever we face Penn State, it's always a fight. It's not an easy win some of the time. Sometimes it is a dominating performance by our team. But majority of the time, whenever we play State, it's always a fight, right? Penn State's just not going to let you win. You're going to have to earn it. But now with James Franklin being gone, that factor is taken away. So I don't know how hyped up the Penn State players are going to be. Again, I'm just assuming that they're going to feel like this is their national championship game. This is their really only moment to get a big, huge win on their season. But I don't think that's going to happen. Obviously, I think we're going to win. But it could be a dogfight. I don't know what type of game we're going to get, honestly. But with that, guys, that is the breaking news. LSU fires Brian Kelly. And we will see who takes all these head coaching position jobs. And with that, guys, I will see you guys in the next one. And happy Monday.